For centuries, the Bengali language relied on the physical preservation of palm leaves and manuscripts. Today, those organic mediums are dissolving into artificial neural networks. Professor Dr. Milton Biswas identifies this transition as a historic disruption. The integration of artificial intelligence applies the most severe technological pressure to Bengali since the arrival of the printing press. On the surface, natural language processing offers immense utility. These tools can digitize vast archives, automate complex translations, and expand the global footprint of Bengali speakers. But an inherent paradox exists within the architecture of generative AI. The very mechanisms that allow machines to process massive amounts of text actively strip the language of its intricate sociolinguistic identity. Large language models operate on statistical probability. They parse billions of tokens to identify patterns, calculating and predicting the next word in a sequence based on mathematical frequency. Bengali does not operate on simple mathematical logic. It is a language built on dense morphosyntactic rules and deep socio-pragmatic layers that require precise contextual awareness to navigate. Classical Bengali literature serves as the ultimate stress test for this statistical architecture. The works of authors like Rabindranath Tagore rely heavily on layered symbolism and specific cultural references. Because algorithms learn through probabilistic matching rather than lived experience, the spiritual depth of this poetry escapes their calculations entirely. Following Dr. Biswas's framework, we can map exactly where these calculations break down, from failures in morphosyntax to dialectical bias, and examine how digital sovereignty offers a functional solution. Statistical fluency creates a convincing illusion. Without experiential grounding, machine-generated Bengali outputs remain mathematically accurate, yet culturally hollow. Dr. Biswas notes that global NLP pipelines and tokenization models are predominantly optimized for Latinate, Western grammatical structures. This syntax tree maps how standard pipelines process English. They lock words into a rigid, linear subject-verb-object sequence. Bengali utilizes a highly fluid syntax. Meaning relies less on strict word order and more on extreme morphological density. The language uses an abugida writing system. This packs complex meaning into individual units through layered suffixes, vowel modifiers, and conjunct consonants. Here is where the computational failure occurs. Standard AI tokenization breaks down when attempting to parse these highly dense, multi-layered grapheme clusters. To compensate for this parsing failure, the AI defaults to mechanical, literal translations that completely miss the interconnected context of those suffixes. A culturally rich idiom or a layered metaphor gets severed from its roots, outputting a disjointed string of literal definitions that lose the intended meaning entirely. Without dedicated Bengali morphological analyzers, AI systems are forced to process the language as a superficial string of codes rather than a cohesive, organic structure. Continuous updates and the retraining of global models rarely address this gap. They simply iterate on the same flawed parsing methodology, ignoring the morphological nuances required for true fluency. When tokenization algorithms fail at this morphosyntactic level, they strip Bengali of its unique expressive capacity and semantic depth. Moving beyond structural grammar brings us to pragmatics, the study of context-driven meaning in social interaction. Human language is an embodied cultural phenomenon. The words we choose are shaped by history, power dynamics, and social hierarchies. This matrix visualizes the Bengali system of honorifics, which encodes social hierarchies directly into grammar. A single concept branches into three distinct tiers: formal apni, familiar tumi, and intimate or inferior tui. Selecting a specific honorific dictates the structural logic, forcing the speaker to rewrite the verb endings across the entire resulting sentence. A standard neural network struggles to select the correct social path through this matrix. Current AI architectures lack lived experience and social awareness. They simply do not possess the contextual metadata required to make culturally appropriate choices. In the absence of that metadata, the algorithm defaults to high-frequency statistical averages. The result is a machine generating sentences that are grammatically valid, yet socially incongruent, offensive, or entirely culturally deaf. This lack of pragmatic understanding prevents the AI from grasping sarcasm, culturally specific humor, or rhetorical nuance during an interaction. Language modeling devoid of cultural empathy reduces a rich, living social fabric into a flattened, mechanized approximation. These computational failures originate in the foundational fuel of generative AI, the massive datasets used to train the language models. A strict rule of machine learning dictates that an AI inherits and amplifies any biases present in its source data. This topographical data map illustrates a critical flaw, Dr. Biswas terms dialectical blindness. Notice the data streams flowing into the central AI training corpus. The flow is massively skewed. It heavily favors standard urban Bengali, while almost entirely ignoring regional dialects like Sylheti or rural vernaculars. True Bengali communication encompasses a vast diversity of everyday, lived experiences and local histories that are largely absent from these digital archives. The AI algorithm responds to this skewed data by applying a smoothing effect. It actively erases regional variations in favor of reproducing the dominant standard. This creates a dangerous feedback loop. As this homogenized AI-generated content floods the internet, it becomes the training data for the next generation of models, compounding the erasure. Dr. Biswas defines this phenomenon as digital linguistic imperialism, where technological systems force a polyphonic language into a single monolithic mold. The socio-political stakes are severe. This homogenization alienates marginalized communities, distorts representation, and erodes local epistemologies. Bias dataset optimization functions as an active engine of cultural disenfranchisement, systematically erasing linguistic variety from the digital landscape. To combat this algorithmic assimilation and preserve the language, Dr. Biswas proposes a systemic solution: Bengali digital sovereignty. Digital sovereignty is the right and capacity of a linguistic community to maintain autonomous control over its data corpora and algorithmic infrastructure. Relying on proprietary, closed-source models owned by global tech conglomerates poses a direct threat. Their primary motive is scale and efficiency, not cultural preservation. This block diagram outlines the architectural alternative. Instead of closed-loop models, the community requires localized platforms built for the Bengali digital commons. First, developers utilize crowdsourced, dialect-inclusive data collection. Second, a human-in-the-loop framework ensures linguists and elders govern the AI's outputs during training. This collaborative approach allows humans to correct algorithmic biases and validate cultural authenticity in real time. An ethically aligned AI can pivot, transitioning from a homogenizing force to acting as an active archivist and an amplifier of endangered dialects. This sets up the future potential for AI-powered educational and research tools. These platforms can adapt specifically to a user's regional dialect and unique cultural background. Ultimately, technological innovation must be guided by ethno-linguistic insight and community priorities for these tools to be effective. Dr. Biswas's final insight provides a clear mandate: AI must be re-architected. It needs to evolve from a machine of statistical mimicry into an ethical, culturally informed custodian. Only by demanding digital sovereignty can the Bengali language ensure its poetic cadence and intellectual depth survive and flourish in the age of artificial intelligence.